the only thing that gon' be normal is distribution. Normal folks gon' infuse some. Optimize your lineups and you feed the rest, you mute them. Turning it up, these numbers are loud. Peeping this game from a nimbus is wild. Making it rain while I embrace all this risk, I'm insane. Talking about that best bill, I'm the best till into the next world. Guess I got next still. Best bill, I'm the best till into the next world. Guess I got next still.
Hey y'all, it's Bradley, and we are back here on the Best Bell Fantasy Football Podcast and live stream. It's been a minute since Best Bell has been doing its thing. I'm here, but we've also had some awesome guys join the Fantasy Football Plus network alongside the Best Bell Fantasy stream and podcast. We've got the guys over at the Dynasty Pulse, Mike and Brendan, aka Grindberg and Biggs. They've been crushing over the Player Profiler, but also have been bringing out the Dynasty Pulse, and has been one of my favorite shows. If you guys haven't checked them out, make sure you are, because it is great. So make sure you guys are checking out every Thursday. Grindberg and Biggs get out their Dynasty hats and talk some Dynasty. And then we also have Vibes-Based Drafting by Jake Fabian that's happening periodically, doing some live drafts on Underdog. And he's also done an analysis of Daniel Jeremiah's mock drafts. And so his deal is that he's going to do vibes-based drafting. He's going to talk about the vibes that he's getting from the drafts. But the irony is Jake Fabian is one of the most analytical people in the space, and he is a great listen. There are a couple episodes of vibes-based drafting already that you guys should check out here on the channel. And third, the newest addition to the Fantasy Football Plus network is Best Ball Night School, hosted by Jeremiah and Ed, and they crushed episode 1 last week. If you haven't checked it out, check out Best Ball Night School. All of these are on podcasts as well, so make sure you're downloading the podcast. You can look for Vibes-Based Drafting, Night School, Dynasty Pulse, all of them phenomenal watches. And now Best Bell Fantasy, of course, doing its thing. I've got a special treat for y'all tonight. We're going to do a slim draft on FFPC. There are 2 spots remaining in this $5 slim draft. It is just 20 rounds, but we're going to draft. We're going to get it tonight. It's going to fill 2 spots on the FFPC. It's a sit and go. Lots of fun. I'm excited. So if you guys have not jumped into the FFPC streets, it's $5. DraftKings doesn't even have their stuff up yet. Underdog has one $10 tournament. Drafters, this is the cheapest one that's out there right now. And you get to just get your FFPC feet wet just a little bit. It's not requiring the 125. I'm saving the 125s for when we get a little bit more information, or it's closer to, I want to do 1 or 2 right before the NFL draft, because we'll get information before then. But this is where I want to mock draft essentially and get my feet wet before we start spending the big bucks. And as Adam Krautwurst likes to say, put some skin in the game. And it's good to get some of these mock drafts or these drafts in. So if you haven't checked it out, Sit and Go number 74268 is what we're going to be jumping into here in just a few moments. If you've never drafted on the FFPC, consider doing so. It's really fun. It's really easy. They have an app, but you also can do it on the desktop. And there's a couple quirks. One is, of course, that it's tight end premium. And that's going to throw some value into the streets of the tight ends, certainly valuing these earlier tight ends. And so you're going to see tight ends pumped up in the FFPC streets compared to Underdog, compared to Drafters, compared to under the DraftKings, wherever you are drafting your best ball leagues. The tight end premium is a feature of the FFPC. All right, we have one spot left in this draft, and then we're gonna draft live. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna have a good time. Appreciate y'all jumping in. If you like the content and find this helpful so far, we're gonna talk some players. We're gonna talk some takes. We're gonna talk whatever you guys want to. If you wanted to hop in the chat on YouTube, feel free to do that. I'm excited to do that with you. So we've got one spot remaining in the FFPC streets. So jump on in. The water's fine. There's nothing wrong. Come on in. All right. So as we're waiting, one of the questions, of course, is who is going to be drafted in the first rounds? And there's a pretty tight consensus of the top 7, right? We've got Christian McCaffrey, who's going pretty consensus at 101 right now. We also have Justin Jefferson up there. We have Jamar Chase. CD Lamb is often going at the 102 in these drafts. And not the tight ends aren't really going the first round. Like Laporta in the FFPC streets is maybe going into the first round, but that's not where I'm going to take him. If that's the location of my draft pick, I'm not going to select him at 108. He didn't separate himself from the field, and the pathway for him to have a Travis Kelce-like season is to have a Patrick Mahomes, right? And no Tyreek Hill. There are 2 other Lions that are in the first round, pretty much consensus, right? Amon-Ra is up there, and Jahmyr Gibbs is also up there. So I'm not looking to invest too heavily in Sam Laporta, especially in the first round. Like you're expecting, if you're going to draft a player in the first round, you need a pathway for them to hit the nuts. You need a pathway for them to get into the 10 plus best ball value rating or above, because if they don't, then they're not going to pay off or have an opportunity at all to pay off your draft capital that you're investing in by selecting them at the 106 or 108 or wherever. And that's one of the reasons why I'm not in on Garrett Wilson. I have very, very little Garrett Wilson in the early best ball streets. I have none of him in FFPC. I have a little bit of him in the underdog streets just to spice things up a little bit, just to have a hair of exposure. But I do not want to be overexposed to Garrett Wilson because his pathway to success is very, very, it's a tightrope. You need everything to go right for Garrett Wilson in 2024 for him to be set. Okay, so let me refresh. It looks like we have the draft board, which is cool. And the draft is going to begin in 2 minutes. Let me refresh it so we can get it here. Yeah. Cool. We're going to enter the draft room. And I have the 4th pick. I have the 4th pick in this draft. That's cool. We'll go to the draft room. So some of the players that I'm considering, I don't care if y'all snipe me. I'm just going to talk openly because these are my player takes. And if you're sniping me February 28th, 2024, so be it. But I'm assuming that McCaffrey and Lamb are going off the board. That would leave Jefferson or Tyreek Hill. And many of these players, the Lamb, the Jefferson, the Hill, all of them are in pretty much the same tier, I think. You have, in terms of best ball value rating, Jefferson was wide receiver 5 last year, in the same tier as the wide receiver 4, Keenan Allen. But you have to remember Jefferson dealt with injuries for part of the season. He missed half the season, essentially the middle of it. But we've seen Justin Jefferson pay off at the 104 if he were that type of value. That was from 2022. So I don't mind Jefferson at this spot. We know what Tyreek Hill did last year with Tua, and Tua didn't help him very much. It was Tyreek Hill who was dragging along Tua, right? But Tyreek Hill did finish as the wide receiver 1 in terms of best ball value rating. There we go. So McCaffrey goes off. no surprise, CeeDee Lamb goes off. And then the question is, am I going to go Justin Jefferson or Tyreek Hill? Still, because Breece Hall goes at the 103. A little surprising. It is full PPR. I do love Breece Hall this year, but I do have him behind Jefferson and Hill. And we're going to go with, I don't have a lot of exposure to Justin Jefferson so far, but I am going to take Tyreek Hill. The number one, Hill didn't let me down last year, but also Hill was the wide receiver 1 in terms of best ball value rating last year. And like, we know who his quarterback is and we can stack more easily. We're playing the game of, I want to know what we could possibly do with Justin Jefferson. We don't know who his quarterback's going to be. You can take a shot at drafting Kirk Cousins, but we're not guaranteed he's going to return. You can take a shot at drafting Michael Penix or JJ McCarthy to stack, but we know who the quarterback for Miami is going to be in 2024, and it's going to be Tua. And Tua right now is like falling way down the rankings. It sets me up for Tua to be a very nice quarterback too. Yeah, index of suspicion jumps up and partial to Hill here. I agree. Tyreek loves his head coach and his head coach loves him. Yeah, because he's manufacturing touches for the best player on the team. Yeah, that's what good coaches do. They put their players in positions for success. So that's what we're excited about here, is getting Tyreek Hill. No surprises later on in this first round. Justin Jefferson goes right off afterwards. Puka Nacua ahead of Jamar Chase. That is a little interesting, even though Puka did finish wide receiver 6 this year in best ball value rating. I don't hate Puka. In fact, I love drafting him at the end of the first round, but you have to remember, in these one quarterback 20 round drafts, it is a start 3 wide receiver. Okay. We see Sam Laporta go off at the 1-2 turn. I think that's a mistake. I think Sam Laporta is going to be a great player. He's going to be a really, really good tight end, but positionally, let me wait for George Kittle. Let me wait for Evan Ingram. You can't tell me that Sam Laporta is multi-tiers above Ingram and Kittle in terms of the ceilings that they can achieve. Sure, you might be able to say, oh, they can be more consistent, blah, blah, blah. But the value replacement of Sam Laporta over someone else, that's just not going to work out. Sam Laporta finishes the tight end 2 last year in terms of best ball value rating, and he finished just ahead of TJ Hawkinson. George Kittle was half of a best ball value rating behind him. So really, I don't view them in, there's not a multi-tier difference. That's where that's why you're not wanting to draft Sam Laporta. Yeah. So there's concerns here. Laporta, I don't mind the Kelsey pick there. Maybe in the middle of the first round. Yeah, Travis Etienne being bumped up so far here. Jeez, oh, Pete. This is a tough spot because there are players that I like, but whether we take them or not is going to be a big question. And I took security with Tyreek Hill. I'm going to take not security with Devontae Adams, middle of the second round. Devontae Adams last year finished as the wide receiver 16 in best ball value rating with Aiden O'Connell as the quarterback. Things couldn't get much worse. For Devontae Adams last year. 8 of Aiden O'Connell's 11 games that he played, he threw for 1 or 0 touchdowns. As I said, things can't get much worse, and Josh Jacobs may not be back. We're going to be looking for opportunities. Yeah, and so Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, starting off wide receiver. I do have a propensity to take a lot of wide receivers to start this draft. What I found, especially in doing the underdog, but also the FFPC, is there's a lot of running backs in round 6, 7, and 8 that I just click. And it's a lot of fun drafting those types of running backs. It's also, It makes sense. And the so much better when I'm drafting like that. Oh, we've got some third round Debo that I can consider. We've got third round Tank Dell. Thinking that one of the, to me, I'm going to get Debo here. I've taken security with Tyreek Hill the and Devontae Adams, but Debo Samuel this year was wide receiver 11 in best ball value rating. So I've got 3 top 16 wide receivers week in, week out. And I know people are like, you passed on Marvin Harrison. And I need Harrison to fall a little bit more. I need him to be more that Jalen Waddle, Devonta Smith spot for me to be taking him. Because right now, the range of outcomes for Marvin Harrison is so wide relative to what could happen. There are some teams who are saying, we like Malik Neighbors better near the top of the draft. That's the rumors we're hearing, the rumblings right now. And so for me to get Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Debo Samuel allows me to get at some San Francisco later on. I could have gone Debo and then Ayuk, double tap round 2 and 3, and that's something you can do. But Tyreek, Devontae Adams, Debo Samuel is a wide receiver start, and as unique index of suspicion threw in the chat on X, shout out to you, a unique build so far. Yeah, and I haven't even checked on Fantasy Mojo's stack builder if how unique this is. But given just what is happening in this draft, I'm the only 3 wide receivers start here. Now I'm going to be looking for a tight end or a quarterback to finish out this round 4 and round 5. And we'll just see what comes back to me. I'm sad that Mark Andrews didn't make it back to me. He's one that I like clicking in the 3rd round. And that stack of Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews looks pretty good, but I'm not afraid of taking Lamar naked. We can throw Zay Flowers later on. And I like Flowers as my wide receiver 4 in builds. I don't like him as my wide receiver 2. That's a problem because Zay Flowers, unfortunately, we have to keep scrolling, the wide receiver 34 in best ball value rating his rookie year, which is not too bad. But when you're drafting him like ahead of the George Pickens or ahead of the Jordan Addisons, there's a steep price to pay for Zay Flowers, who needs touches manufactured for him to be fantasy relevant. Like he had a couple 30-yard rushes, which is great, but you cannot depend on those 30-yard rushes every single game. And he's a smaller build guy. So I like him as a player in the NFL. I just think that there is a limited ceiling for a player like Zay Flowers. Jaden Reed had a higher best ball value rating last year than Zay Flowers. And Reed was a part-time player for part of the season. And so was Zay, but we saw a couple big Zay games while Mark Andrews was out. Andrews is still clearly the number one receiving option in Baltimore. So I am considering, I do want a tight end or a quarterback here. I'm staring down a couple players. I see who's available. There's 15 seconds. Oh, good. I mentioned earlier, I would be willing to draft Lamar Jackson naked. And here we are, Lamar Jackson getting drafted naked. We got Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Debo Samuel, and Lamar in round 4. We are dedicated to the 0 RB build. There's just, frankly, looking at who these running backs are in terms of value, you're probably going to get a sprinkling of McCaffrey if you're the 101. You want a little bit of exposure there. Same thing with Breece Hall. You want some exposure to Breece Hall. You want some exposure to Bijan Robinson, the end of the first, to sprinkle it in, Jahmyr Gibbs here and there. But the access to ceiling of the running back 5 or higher is going to be very difficult for players like Kenneth Walker or Rashad White or Derrick Henry, who we saw go off here in round 3, or Isaiah Pacheco, right? Josh Jacobs even. This is why you got to push running back, because it's going to look very good at the end. Like, I'm very happy with my 3 wide receivers so far. Then I've got Lamar, and I'm gonna be looking at tight end here, and there's one staring at me in the face, and that is Jaguars tight end Evan Ingram. So Ingram is a popular tight end that I have much exposure to because in round 5, you're getting the target leader among all tight ends from last year and reception leader. Very, very quiet, but in a tight end premium league, that's what's valued more. And in a team that is probably not going to re-sign Zay Jones, and in a team where the Jaguars are most likely to return Calvin Ridley, Evan Ingram is the perfect middle of the field complement to Calvin Ridley and the Jacksonville Jaguars. And even if Calvin Ridley moves on, you've got Christian Kirk who will move to the outside, and then Evan Ingram still dominates in the middle of the field. Evan Ingram, former first-round pick. This is a player that I think is a great 5th-round tight end. And yes, we may have some questions later on about what Evan Ingram may be able to do in repeating. He didn't hit super ceiling weeks, but he was tight end 7 in terms of best ball value rating, in the same tier as David Njoku and Jake Ferguson. And then it's a steep fall off to Cole Kmet. Trey McBride was tight end 10 last year in best ball value rating. Schultz was 11. Dallas Goedert was 12. So I've got some options moving forward. Zay Flowers still is not yet off the board. He will not come back to me to like stack, but Trevor Lawrence is a stacking option later. Tua is a stacking option later. I don't know who we're going to get with Devontae Adams, but Devontae Adams opens up the possibility of getting some rookie quarterbacks like Caleb Williams if he falls, Jaden Daniels if he falls, Drake May. That's what, like a Devontae Adams type of player, we can take a shot on that type of rookie quarterback. All right, cool. Big Marty jumps in and says, Team 6 getting their guys. Yeah, that's Justin Jefferson, Saquon, Marvin Harrison, Mike Evans, DK Metcalf. We've got 4 wide receivers and a running back. So this now sets me up for some running back smashes coming back around. And there are not a lot of running backs who have gone off the board at this point. But we've seen James Conner go off at running back 17. But now I'm just going to hammer some running backs. That's how I'm looking at this. Is there are a lot of wonderful PPR type running backs. Aaron Jones goes off. There's been a lot of yellow, but now we can hit on some green. And there's a few running backs in my experience who will be available to me at round 6 and round 7 in particular. And then we'll just continue to sprinkle in. Tazi Spears goes off at running back 19, which may be a great value. He is a player that the coaches spoke highly of and the GM spoke highly of in the combine just yesterday. But today, he's going off running back 19. Tomorrow, they might sign a complimentary running back. And Tazi Spears can still pay off running back 19, even if a free agent running back comes to the Titans. But now I really like Ramondre Stevenson here, running back 20 in full PPR. Yeah, give me a player who the New England Patriots lack offensive explosion players. Ramondre is one of those players that's still good. Like Demario Douglas, Ramondre Stevenson. That's it. The GM and the coach have already come out about weaponizing the offense. Ramondre is a weapon. Ramondre is a great pass catching back out of the backfield. And I think at running back 20, he has pathway to pay off. There are others that are just hanging out right here. We'll see how many taps of running back come off the board. But I'm pretty encouraged by some other running backs that are available here and taking a 0 RB approach through the first 5 rounds. I'm feeling pretty comfortable with who I've selected at this point. Tony Pollard, I was hoping would come back to me. He's one of my favorites to tap at this spot in round 6, round 7. David Montgomery goes off right there. And we see Justin Fields as quarterback go off. I don't like two quarterbacks at this spot at 6 and 7. Maybe I'm wrong here, but I'm going to take Joe Mixon at this spot. Joe Mixon, running back 23, off the board in round 7. There were rumors last year that Joe Mixon was going to get cut, and instead he finishes as running back 13 in best ball value rating, a 10.38, in like the same tier as Alvin Kamara, James Conner, Saquon, Isaiah Pacheco, Derrick Henry, David Montgomery. Like Joe Mixon at this spot, he was not very efficient, but the Bengals may just re-sign him. Like, what are they going to do? They're probably just going to re-sign him, or they're going to keep him around. Chase Brown showed some things, but I'm a little worried about Chase Brown and his ADP. It is very, very high. He's getting drafted in the underdog streets around like running back 39 or so. And here Chase Brown is going 106.4 ADP on the FFPC. That's pretty early for running back. It's the market is hedging right now. And I'd rather take a shot on a guy who will get you the touchdowns and has a history of being a bell cow back. Joe Mixon, running back 23 off the board, has pathway and has done this in the past, finishing running back 13 last year in best ball value rating. I'm getting some good values at running back, and my build is feeling pretty good at this point. I've got some Cincy, New England. Like, people are down on the Patriots, and I think that the Patriots have a pathway to be the Houston Texans of 2023. We're going to see if that pans out, but there is a pathway for a completely restructure, new GM, new head coach, reinvigorated, top pick in the draft. They're probably going to take a quarterback, and they'll retool with some veteran players to stick around. And Devin Singletary is a player that we should be considering late in our drafts, given how he did with the Houston Texans. But I'm happy with getting Joe Mixon at this spot, and I don't feel pressure now to be needing to be taking a quarterback or double tapping a quarterback. Lamar Jackson last year finished as the quarterback 2 in best ball value rating, only behind Josh Allen. I got one of the best quarterbacks. I've got 3 wide receivers. We'll see if any value falls to me as we're going through this draft. But as I said, I like a lot of these later running backs and just think I'm going to get some value. And now is also a time where I can start considering like that quarterback 2. I don't feel like I need to. I can push it to round 9, probably. We'll probably get one running back and a quarterback in these spots. So we'll see. Brock Purdy goes off. There's no stack there. You're taking 2 quarterbacks. We are starting 3 wide receivers in this team, so I am a little perplexed by some of the selections. But I'm looking at, for instance, at the running back position, Javonte Williams, who did not do too well last year. DeAndre Swift, Raheem Mostert. I think I'm going to go with DeAndre Swift. Swift last year finished as where are we at? The running back 27 in best ball value rating, a 6.5. I think that was held against him. So he aligned with where his ADP is right now. That's fine. I'm taking a guy at value, but it's more a structural pick anyways. So Deontay Johnson goes right on off. I don't understand the Nick Chubb selection there, like his ADP. Nick Chubb had a disastrous knee injury And while we are saying, oh, Nick Chubb is, working his way through the progress, and that's what we're hearing, we aren't like the expectation is Chubb is going to miss the first third of the season at least. Number one. Number two is he is a massive cut candidate. So there's no financial backing that the Browns are going to put toward Nick Chubb, even if they bring him back. So there's no like sponsorship for Nick Chubb. There's no need to rush him out. So getting Nick Chubb at that spot at running back 28 is something I can't get behind. Same thing with the Chase Brown selection here, right? I can't get behind it. Whereas DeAndre Swift, we know what profile production he's given in the past. Man, oh man, Javonte Williams, not someone that I'm willing to take a shot on, but some of these players get pushed, and I want to push some of the quarterbacks. I'm going to take Raheem Mostert, running back, and that's going to fit with Tyreek Hill. So I've taken 4 straight running backs. And Raheem Mostert last year, look, nothing has changed. Mostert, running back 3 in best ball value rating last year, running back 31 in the 9th round. Yeah, he can go to dust, and he's 31, 32 years old. But he also showed the immense upside. At this point, you just need a couple games out of Mostert in this build for it to work out. So I've really hammered wide receiver at the beginning. I have my staple quarterback. I've got my tight end 1, and now I've hammered running back so far. And I've tried to we're going to push some quarterback. I know that a few of the teams between me and coming back to me do need quarterbacks, but some of them don't. Like one team hasn't selected a quarterback yet, and they're pushing quarterback at this point. But looking at the others, there's a couple teams that have 2 quarterbacks, and it would be foolish of them to be drafting a third. So this is where you can try to like push it a little bit. Yeah, that team takes 2. So maybe we can take either a Trevor Lawrence if he comes back around, or we can take Caleb Williams if he comes back around. Possibility if the Raiders decide they want to trade up. You never know what's going to happen there. But I do a lot of the running back shots in rounds 6, 7, 8, and 9. And then also taking some of the quarterback as your quarterback too, if at all possible. Now, passing on, I've seen Trevor Lawrence fall. That's one of the other things to keep in mind is what have we seen? And I've seen Trevor Lawrence fall. So him to stack with Evan Ingram at quarterback 16. Lawrence had a really bad season last year, but he still finished quarterback 18 in best ball value rating. It's probably not going to get much worse. Heck, Tua finished quarterback 23. Mahomes finished quarterback 20. Lawrence finished quarterback 18, and pretty much the same tier as Deshaun Watson, Joe Burrow, Baker Mayfield as of last year. Lawrence finished ahead of Jared Goff last year. Wow, 3 quarterbacks off the board. Someone is paying the rake. Okay, at some point, someone's got to pay the rake, and maybe we'll take some later stacks. It's okay if we're leaning into some Evan Ingram here as our tight end, but there are other tight ends that I like in this range right now, and we'll consider taking one at this spot. There's one in particular that I like a lot, so we'll see if he makes it back around. Anyways, if you like the content and you found this helpful so far, you're watching on the YouTube, smash the subscribe button. This is Fantasy Football Plus Network, Best Ball Fantasy podcast on the network, so check it out. We're having a good time drafting on the FFPC. This is a slim 20-round, 1 quarterback, 3 wide receiver, tight end premium draft. And we'll look at a couple players here. We're considering Caleb Williams. We're considering Kirk Cousins. And Michael Mayer goes off the board. Man, oh man, I love me some Michael Mayer at this spot in the draft. But also, Caleb Williams is a player that I'm interested in taking. Not a lot of other tight ends at this spot. Yeah, let's go with some Caleb Williams as your quarterback 18. And that seems to be about his ADP, is around quarterback 18. And I like it. I think that that's going to be a spot where Caleb Williams can pay off that ADP, whether it is quarterback 15, 12. And I only need him to step in a few games for Lamar during his bye week, or maybe Lamar does have a lower game, or if Lamar gets injured. But I like Caleb Williams at that spot floor play. There's a few other players in this range that I'm considering as well. Wow, we finally get a quarterback for the 102. We get Kirk Cousins off the board. Kendre Miller, one of my favorites. He's a player who I think is going to be a little expensive, more expensive than last year, but Kyron Williams 2.0, an early declare, athletic running back, all things that are better than Kyron Williams, but could have an opportunity with some veterans moved out of the way, like if Alvin Kamara moves out or if Jamal Williams moves out of the way. So there are some other players at this spot where we see Jaden Daniels go off the board. I like that selection, quarterback 20 for Daniels. He's a player I've been tapping a lot as my quarterback 2, quarterback 3, depending upon how things shake out value-wise. But looking at who's available, I know I already have Devontae Adams, but Jacoby Myers was a player that absolutely crushed last year in terms of not only best ball value rating, where he finished as the wide receiver 25, ahead of Cooper Kupp, ahead of Chris Olave, ahead of T. Higgins, Jalen Waddle, Rashee Rice, Jaden Reed, Zay Flowers. But also the value that you're getting. Wide receiver 49, Jacoby Myers does not need to do a lot to pay off that ADP, given his previous production profile. Like the previous years, he's been fitting at about wide receiver 36, wide receiver 30, and this year wide receiver 24 and 25 in best ball value rating. So if he were to be somewhere on the board, he would be like a round 5 selection, which is wild to think, like 5th, 6th round. But because of worry from the market, oh, who's this quarterback going to be? Oh, is Devontae Adams going to move or not? The reports are Devontae Adams not going to move. Tom Telesco came out today and said, quote, he's a Raider. It's fact, he is a Raider, but it doesn't preclude anything from happening otherwise. I did want a wide receiver at that spot. I was thinking about a Marquise Hollywood Brown and like a bounce back there, but Hollywood Brown is one of those players that he plays injured a lot. He's also a smaller wide receiver. He does get targets when he's out on the field, but he's not a player that you can trust season long to be paying off. Like he's, like I've already taken shots on the Debo who may be missing games. I don't want to take like Mike Williams to pair with it. Like the rest of the wide receivers that I take later are players who are not going to be injury risks to be zeros. If they're going to be out there, at least I want shots at them playing. Players with injury history like Mike Williams, Hollywood Brown are players that I'm hesitant to click. I make one exception, and that is Christian Watson, because I think he's uber undervalued at wide receiver 43 in this draft, for instance. But looking at how things are shaking out, Ty Chandler goes off. That was a player I was considering at this spot. We could look at going with another tight end coming up here soon. We are getting a little tight on the tight ends, but maybe I can backdoor stack a little bit with a third quarterback and then call it quits with quarterbacks. At this point, we want to be taking sure things. Like, yes, maybe you fit with the perfect draft. Maybe all of the predictions that you make align, but taking some sure things, like we know Aaron Rodgers is going to be playing for the Jets in 2024. So to get him at quarterback 22, it's going to be hard for Aaron Rodgers to not pay off quarterback 22. Okay. So I've got 3 quarterbacks, and that's going to be my limit. I'm not going to draft any more. I'm not going to get into the Derek Carrs or Drake Mays of the world based on this. I already have 4 running backs. And then now I can tap some value at tight end or at wide receiver. So we'll scroll down the board a little bit so that we can see. We've got just a few more rounds. We are entering round number 13. And I've got 4 running backs. I've got a tight end. I've got 3 quarterbacks. And I know that people are like, but Bradley, why are you drafting? Why is quarterback such an important position? I think a couple reasons. One is ever since the season has extended to 17 games, we have seen average games played for quarterbacks dip down for the starters. So considering taking 3, and then looking at some wide receivers here, Rashid Shaheed is a nice little upside wide receiver. He finished last year as wide receiver 45 in best ball value rating. He finished right next to Christian Kirk, ahead of Drake London last year, ahead of Garrett Wilson, ahead of Chris Godwin. And Rashid Shaheed, we know that Derek Carr was dealing with injuries last year and probably shouldn't have been on the field for some of the season. But Shaheed at wide receiver 56 offers a little bit more upside, especially in a start 3 wide receiver build. You have to like that. And I know that Braylon Allen, Bucky Irving come off the board later, but I'm happy with how my core of running backs at that spot. And now we can look at who are some of the tight ends coming up as possibilities. And there are a few that I'm looking at that I think could be good fits for this build, and we'll see if they come back around. It is interesting to see how quickly the tight end position zips on up here in the FFPC streets. You just don't want to be left out. You don't want to be taking the zeros at any of those positions, in particular at the quarterback position, which is what I was talking about earlier. Quarterback, with fewer quarterbacks playing the full season, like Josh Allen is the only quarterback to have played 17 games each of the last 3 seasons, and the average amount of games for starting quarterbacks diving down each year since the 17-game season started. Drafting 3 quarterbacks who we know are going to be starters is probably the best way to not take zeros at the quarterback position. And taking a 0 at the quarterback position is a death sentence. You cannot afford to take a 0. You can afford to take a relative 0. You cannot afford to take zeros at quarterback. You can afford to take, and survive a week with a bad tight end showing. You can survive with a bad flex showing. You cannot survive with a 0 coming from a position that you need 20 points plus to pay off. And that's the quarterback slot. Because not only do you have to, crush at the other positions to make up for it, the 20 points to make up and keep yourself competitive is just too hard to make up. Getting 3 quarterbacks is going to be really key. And maybe I went a little early with Aaron Rodgers, but quarterback 22, I still think is one of the values. I do Bryce Young, who goes off here at quarterback 29. Russell Wilson is a good consideration at 27. I do think Russ ends up on another team who needs a quarterback. Mayfield is most likely to re-sign with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Did see Tucker Kraft go off at tight end at 24. Yeah, and that's compared to Luke Musgrave, who went off at tight end 14 in round 9 compared to round 13. So a 4-round differential between Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft. The Packers are rumored to be playing a lot of 2 tight end sets, which is one of the reasons why I've not been in on Jaden Reed as much as people love Jaden Reed. Wide receiver 34 last year in best ball value rating. Not a player that I am looking to be drafting a lot of in 2024. I think it's a Christian Watson bounce back. So I'm going to stack tight end with Tyler Conklin here at tight end 25. Love me some T Conk. I have to stay on brand. Everyone knows that Bradley loves his Tyler Conklin. If you don't, you should listen to all of the other videos and things that I do. But Tyler Conklin is a player, tight end 25. Boom. Very hard for him to not pay off. Tight end 25 is going to contribute here and there. The Conk Daddy finished tight end at 32 last year, but that was, we have to be honest, it was Zach Wilson. And if we're moving up, if we are elevating Garrett Wilson, we have to elevate Tyler Conklin. So I'm not too worried about Tyler Conklin and that spot here. There is another player that I'm looking to take, and we'll double tap tight end. Jatavion Sanders is a borderline first round pick at tight end. I love taking Sanders as just discount Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers. Wow, we have to scroll up. Holy buckets. If we want to find where Brock Bowers goes. The tight end 5 in round 4. Holy guacamole. The next tight end off the board is Jatavion Sanders. Yeah, give me some Sanders with that kind of differential of rookie tight ends. Give me lots of that. I like how this build, I was able to fill out the tight end spot pretty nicely in this draft. We have very early start 3 wide receivers with Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Deebo Samuel. Then I smacked Lamar Jackson, Evan Ingram. I went 0 RB in this build. Ramondre Stevenson, Joe Mixon, DeAndre Swift, Raheem Mostert. My core of running backs in round 6 to 9. Then I tapped Caleb Williams in round 10, quarterback 18. And then Jacoby Myers, Rashid Shaheed, wide receivers 49 and 56 off the board. We got some T. Conk and Jatavion Sanders. And then we will round out the rest of this best ball draft with just some value and players that I like. And that's what you want to do with these drafts, and just make sure that you have a balanced draft here. So I'm probably not going to move away from 3 tight ends. There's not going to be a lot of other tight ends that we're going to find value in this late, round 16 and beyond, without some clarity at the position. Maybe there's one that catches my eye, but probably not. So we're probably going to hit on some more wide receivers and take shots on them as we're closing out the round 16 and beyond, but also taking a couple sprinkles of running back, some rookie running backs or some veterans who might be left by the wayside here. Okay, cool. And if you like the content and you found this helpful, jump onto the Fantasy Football Plus Network's YouTube channel and smash the subscribe button. It's a great way to support all the things happening here at Fantasy Football Plus. So we've got some awesome things happening. Check it out. We are here. We are back at it. Yeah, it's great doing some best bell. I'm going to get some guests as we go on through the off season. I also have been doing a lot of work on Player Profiler. If you guys haven't checked out my work over at playerprofiler.com, every Thursday, I host Player Profiler Today at 7 p.m. Eastern. At 8 p.m. Eastern, I host Stack Hunters on Player Profiler. And tomorrow is going to be Toyo, the special guest on Stack Hunters, along with one of my friends, Dan Williamson. He and Toyo are going to join me for Stack Hunters. We're going to talk about him. He won $700,000 in the FFPC streets in the last 12 months. So, yeah, that's exciting. That's real exciting. All right, I am up next, and I'm probably going to be looking at a wide receiver, one of my favorite wide receivers at this spot in the draft, and that's Wan'Dale Robinson, possibly the wide receiver 1 and probably the best receiving option on the New York Giants. I know the Giants are slated to draft a wide receiver, which is fine, but there aren't a lot of veteran wide receivers on the market, and Wan'Dale Robinson came on strong last year, and he will be even stronger coming back from that ACL tear he suffered. So I like the Wan'Dale Robinson pick here at wide receiver 69. That's real nice. And Wan'Dale is a player that I thought was going to be a real nice click during his rookie year. And then last year, I was not drafting him a lot. And in fact, Toyo, who's going to be on the podcast Stack Hunters with me tomorrow on the Player Profiler Network, had Wan'Dale Robinson on his team. Okay, we're looking, and we got some Malachi Corley. That is a possibility. We just saw JJ McCarthy go off the board. I like Will Shipley as a pass catching possibility. Running back 64 off the board. I think Shipley will be an early day 3 selection, and teams are going to like what they see from his cones, his drills, his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield, a Clemson Tiger, and a player that I was really in on during Devy and simmered down a little bit, but around 17, trying to fill out, take a couple shots on running back. I like Shipley at this spot. There are a few other running backs that I'm willing to take shots on, but right now I have a 3, 5, 6, 3 build going into the last 3 rounds. We'll probably get one more running back, maybe 2. We'll probably look at a wide receiver here, take a shot on a wide receiver. And yeah, I think we're all set at tight end and at quarterback. So not going to look really that way. Yeah, there are some rookies. So I'm probably going to hit on some heavy rookie spots here. We see going off the board Malachi Corley, who I mentioned earlier. There's a lot of Rashad Bateman love in these late drafts, given the comments that John Harbaugh just made about Rashad Bateman. And Bateman was a player who had a 20-something% target rate during his rookie year. He just wasn't able to stay healthy. And so you have to wonder, like, has Bateman done enough? Has he earned enough trust to get onto the field? And I think Marvin Mims was getting the Rashad Bateman treatment. And if you're looking for a sell in your dynasty leagues, Marvin Mims, clearly a sell. If there's someone who is a Mims truther out there, I liked Mims as a prospect, but he cannot survive on the Sean Payton offense. When Sean Payton literally came out and said the reason why he wasn't developed was our fault. No crap. And that's why I don't trust him to be on your team moving forward. Yeah, it's pretty bleak for the Marvin Mims train. Ultimately, not looking too good. Wide receiver 65 in this draft, right behind Jerry Jeudy and ahead of Demario Douglas. Give me Demario Douglas. As I said, one of only 2 players that you can really quote unquote trust in the Patriots offense. We see Odell Beckham go off. I like Chris Rodriguez super late. Not sure what to make of J.K. Dobbins at this point. I'm still listening to a lot of the news. The expectation is that he will be tested in free agency. Yeah, let's go with Izzy Abanikanda, running back out of Pitt, running back 69. Ooh, that's really nice. I got 2. I got the wide receiver 69 and the running back 69. Solid. Well done, Bradley. But I like Izzy Abanikanda, good speed, good runner at Pitt. And he was so good, in fact, that the Jets moved Michael Carter and Dalvin Cook to clear the way for Izzy Abanikanda to be the RB2 on the New York Jets. So I expect Izzy Abanikanda to operate as the handcuff for Breece Hall. That late, yeah, give me some Izzy Abanikanda, and especially if we're pulling Breece Hall off the field for certain situations, give me some Izzy. Give me some Izzy. All right, we're also going to look at maybe hitting up one more wide receiver. Let's look at some wide receivers who are available. Yeah, Ricky Pearsall is one that's on my radar. Devontae Walker is also on my radar. Brendan Rice is on my radar. Yeah, let's make sure we get my boy Brendan Rice He's probably going to be a day 2 pick, and the team that drafts him is going to put some sponsorship behind him. That is, they know that he is from the lineage of Jerry Rice. So make sure that you're drafting your Brendan Rices. People are going to be putting it. But yeah, Ed jumping in saying, oh, setting up nicely for the Tua stack or not. Bummer. Whoops. Yeah. Sometimes, Ed, you try to push it and it just didn't work out. That's okay. Whoops. Yeah, not as stacky as I would want. I do have some small stacks with Tyler Conklin and Aaron Rodgers, really naked with the Lamar Jackson selection, naked Caleb Williams, although we'll see if he lands somewhere. Not the Bears. I don't have any Bears on here. Maybe Brendan Rice goes to the Bears later. Who knows? But that's why we take a couple of these players. Jermaine Burton is still out there. Yeah, Devontae Walker, Luke McCaffrey, Ricky Pearsall all going off at this point. Let me scan the draft board and see if there's a couple other players that maybe are buried. In the meantime, if you guys find this helpful and you've had a lot of fun drafting along with me, I'm going to be doing not just these drafts, but also check out some of the other shows as well that are doing live drafts on this network. That is Best Ball Night School, of course, hosted by Ed, who jumped on earlier, and Jeremiah. You should also check out Vibes-Based Drafting by Jake Fabian. He's been crushing it. But also we have the Dynasty Pulse hosted by Brendan and Mike, who have been just absolutely great. Check out their work. They are also here on the Fantasy Football Plus. So check that out. Wow. Where did some of these wide receivers go that I like? Can't even find now. This is wild stuff. Okay. I found him now. Never mind. All right. We'll go all clear that. Yeah, there are some late selections here. Last round. Check it out. We've got Brendan Rice here that we selected. Wandell Robinson earlier. Rashid Shaheed. Jacoby Myers. We're hoping for some later season spikes from those guys. But also I liked the Debo pick in round 3. I felt like that had really solid upside. As we know, Debo Samuel, if he can stay healthy, man, look out. Debo finished wide receiver 11 last year in best ball value rating, in the same range as A.J. Brown and Jamar Chase. So, yeah, we're on the clock. And Jermaine Burton is still there. Overall, I don't hate that Donta Foreman pick right there. Yeah, Javon Baker is also very interesting. But we're going to select Jermaine Burton, projected day 2 draft capital, to round out this draft. So this has been a lot of fun. Thank you for drafting with me, everybody, on the FFPC streets. I'm going to do a quick recap of how the draft went in just a moment. I started off with the 4th pick and went Tyreek Hill at the wide receiver 2, came back around to Devontae Adams at the wide receiver 10. I was hoping to see some value fall to me, but ultimately it did not. Debo Samuel at wide receiver 14, coming back around. Ayuk got pushed to wide receiver 16. Could have gone with San Francisco stacks there, but we went 0 RB. Lamar Jackson in round 4, Evan Ingram round 5. Then a smattering of running backs in 6, 7, 8, 9. Ramondre, Joe Mixon, DeAndre Swift, Raheem Mostert, RB31. Caleb Williams, Jacoby Myers, Aaron Rodgers, Rashid Shaheed, Tyler Conklin, tight end 25. Jatavion Sanders, tight end 26. Wandell, Will Shipley, Izzy Abanikanda, Brendan Rice, and Jermaine Burton rounding it out. So a 3, 6, what was that? 8, 3 build. Very exciting. Very great. Thanks everyone for checking this out. If you like the content and you found this helpful, make sure you smash the subscribe button on YouTube. And until next time, everyone, good luck in the fantasy football streets.
I embrace all this risk, I'm insane. Talking about that best bell, I'm the best till into the next world. Guess I got next still. Best bell, I'm the best till into the next world. Guess I got next still.